Could you tell us your purpose of being here in Providence for the second time?
The Muslims here in America who follow the Honorable Elijah Muhammad have our annual convention in Chicago every year, and I'm traveling around the country for the purpose of seeing that the groups that are going by caravan are properly organized and properly informed.
Do we have a mosque here in the city of Providence?
Yes, there is a Muslim mosque here in Providence where meetings are held every Thursday night and every Sunday night.
Well, we never hear anything from them. How come?
Well, I religiously believe that the only way the black man's condition can be corrected in America, politically, socially, economically, and otherwise, is if we do it ourselves. And our religion teaches us and gives us the incentive, the ingenuity, the know-how to separate ourselves from white society and try and do for ourselves in our own society what the white man has done for himself and his kind in his society. And many of the so-called Negro integrationists who have looked forward toward the day when they could intermingle with whites, they think that it's outrageous now that it appears that they're just about to make it into the promised land of integration, as Martin Luther King calls it. They think that we are almost traitors to step in at this point and say that we don't want integration.
Well, you say separation instead of segregation. Can this be accomplished, do you think, really?
The black man and the white man in America is already separated. The fact that you have second-class citizenship is political separation. The fact that you have black people are the last hired and the first fired is economic separation. The fact that you have discrimination is social separation. All we're asking, since separation is practiced, although it's not preached, we're asking that America practice what it preaches or preach what it practices. And whereas up to now the white community benefits, is the sole benefactor from the form of segregation that exists, we want it separate so that the black man can be benefited as well as the white be benefited. And we think that it will solve the race problem. This is just, it doesn't involve hypocrisy, it's recognizing factors as they are, and that's the only way to solve the problem.
Mr. X, are you for total separation right to the point where you might even want your own state?
Yes, we who follow the Honorable Elijah Muhammad have been taught that total separation is the only way to solve the race problem in this country.
Do you speak at all on anything of a political nature?
Well, it depends upon what you mean by politics. We are a religious group. We're religiously motivated. But when in our religion we're taught that we should have freedom, justice, and equality. Some people place freedom, justice, and equality in a political category. But just as Moses in the Bible, his entire message was a message of separation and freedom for his people. And despite the fact that he was seeking freedom for his people and a land, by the way, for his people, Moses is never represented by anyone other than as a religious leader. He's never called a political leader. And since our people today in America are in the same condition that Moses found his people in, and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is a modern counterpart of Moses among us, we look upon him as a man of God, a messenger of God, and a religious man in the same light and in the same category and at the same level with Moses.
I was thinking basically of the present Congo situation and its political overtones in many respects. Do you have any comment on the Congo situation?
Whenever the Congo problem, the Angola problem, and the Algeria problem, all of these problems are discussed in the United Nations, race is basically at the bottom of all. And it's a problem that you can't ignore here in America, and that we as Muslims can't ignore here in America, because as these dark countries in Africa gain their independence and they emerge and they rise, it's causing a fall of the European nations. As they become stronger economically, the European nations become weaker economically. It has necessitated their creating this common market in Europe. The common market, or the need for a common market by Europeans, was created by the freedom or the independence of the African nations and the Asian nations. So although Islam is our religion and we're religiously motivated, we can never lose sight of the fact that race is playing, not only here in America, but also on a worldwide basis, on an international basis.
You happened to mention the last time you were here, I believe it was last April, that your group was not a violent group, but you went on from there. Could you repeat this?
We're not a violent group in this sense, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us never to be the aggressor and to always respect and recognize and obey law and law enforcement officers. And he teaches us always to be in the right, religiously seek to be in the right. But then he teaches us if we're ever attacked, we have the right, the religious right, to defend ourselves. And any act of violence that Muslims have ever been involved in has always been a reaction to an aggressive act that has been committed against us. We don't endorse passive resistance. We don't endorse nonviolence. We don't endorse any kind of peaceful suffering. In fact, we don't endorse anything that's advocated by Martin Luther King that has a tendency to strip and disarm our people in this country at a time when the segregationists in the South are not disarmed. And we think that it is wrong to teach black people in America to be nonviolent at a time when someone is not teaching the white man in America also to be nonviolent.
Have you had any recent incidents?
No, not too recent. However, we had a situation in Monroe, Louisiana, where in our mosque, our religious services were invaded by the police who were trying to stop the spread of Islam in Monroe, Louisiana by frightening the so-called Negroes in that area. And they entered our mosque, they broke into our mosque, armed with riot guns, nightclubs, tear gas, and things of that sort, and a fight did follow. And although the Muslims who follow the Honorable Elijah Muhammad don't believe in carrying any arms whatsoever, Allah did bless us to hospitalize the police who illegally and unjustly and immorally invaded our religious services.
You have a book here called Anti-Slavery by Dwight Lowell Dumond. Could you tell us anything about this?
Yes, this book was authored by a University of Michigan professor. It was published by the University of Michigan Press. It cost $20. And in my opinion, every white person in America, as well as black person in America, should read this book. They would get a better understanding of the machinery that was used to strip the black man who was brought to the West from the East of his culture, of his accomplishments, of his civilization, and relegated to the role of an animal. It tells how he was dehumanized. In fact, it actually spells out the crime that was committed by the slave trader, the slave maker, and the slave master, which is primarily responsible for the condition and the race problem that exists in America today. And one of the best statements in the book, in my opinion, is this professor or scientist points out that second-class citizenship is nothing but a modern version of slavery, which means that according to his definition, slavery still exists. 20 million black people here in America are still slaves. The Emancipation Proclamation and the Civil War were fought for nothing. And because it was approached in that day in a hypocritical way, although Lincoln was faced with the problem, all of the presidents since him, including Kennedy today, is still faced with the same problem, because no honest effort has ever been made to solve it, especially by the politicians. No honest effort has ever